Welcome back to the interview. I'm Gene Marrano. Our guest is Stan Breakell, chairman of the board for Breakell Incorporated. And I wanted to talk real quickly, Stan, what is LEED, by the way, for people that don't know what LEED is?
LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Efficient Design.
Mm-hmm. And it's a
Very
set of
simple.
criteria, correct?
Right. It's like a points rating system, and owners can decide, what they want, what points they want to go for. And of course, the more points you get, the better. LEED Platinum being the highest achievable level.
Mm-hmm. Now, has the cost of complying with LEED, has it come down as far as you can tell over the last few years?
I think from what I can see, the cost has come down.
Mm-hmm.
People argue this back and forth seemingly endlessly, but what's really happening is that as architects and engineers and contractors get more comfortable with it, it's going to become the new norm, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we look forward to seeing what the next, level of the bar gets raised to.
Mm-hmm.
So
that'll help bring down the cost also of like LEED certified manufacturing materials, things like that. If they're being made more of them, economies of scale.
right. If there are markets for things that are made sustainably,
Mm-hmm.
then the cost will come down, and so that's all good.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk about Roanoke City's leadership on sustainability and green issues. One of the things you're involved in is with a business coalition,
Right.
with other business leaders, and I guess the thought there that you guys will help lead the way. Carillion's in that group, a whole bunch of other people. Talk about that. Is it the Green and Clean Coalition? Clean and Green Coalition?
It's the business coalition. It's
There you
now
go.
the shortcut for that.
Okay.
But the concept was to take large employers from varied sectors and see if we couldn't sort of collaborate together and sort of serve as a little peer group and work together and share failures and successes to see if we couldn't move the needle and to set an example for other smaller businesses and citizens in Roanoke.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the basic premise. We didn't form it with some hard and fast methodology, but we just said the city wants to reduce the community carbon footprint 2% a year. We want to double that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we've undertaken to do.
That's a pretty ambitious goal, isn't it? 2% a year for, I think, 10 years they want to do it? Or
The city's goal of 2% a year, I guess that probably is ambitious,
Mm-hmm.
because this is without regard to growth and things like that. So you have to make a commitment to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting as we work through this with our own company and the city and larger businesses to try to get their arms around it. I can tell you that the hardest part is taking the first step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've heard you say that before.
Right.
One of the things Breakell did at your headquarters, you put a green roof on the building,
Right.
which holds down what, heating and cooling costs, or
It's a heating and cooling cost issue. It also creates, a little micro habitat up there, which is better than a black roof, if you will. And but primarily, we want to see if you can actually take an existing building, just a normal, existing office building. It's 15 or 20 years old, and go in and retrofit it and do it at a reasonable price so that it makes sense. So in that way, we're experimenting on ourselves, which I think if I'm going to promote that to clients, I ought to be willing to put my money where my mouth is, and
Right.
that's what we do.
And you were saying one of the things you actually had to test the load on the building to make sure that the building can sustain hold a green roof up, things like
Right.
that.
A green roof does weigh more,
Mm-hmm.
and in this case we had a ballasted roof previously, so by changing that type of roof we're able to reduce some of the original load, and then did an analysis, added some structural supports. It was very cost effective to do it, and then put it on, and roof's still standing even after all the snow.
We mentioned roof standing, and of course, as we go to taping, recently the Blacksburg High School gym collapsed. And this was a structure that was supposedly designed to withstand the heavy snowpack and things like that. When incidents like that happen, Stan, do architects and contractors, do you kind of recalibrate and kind of go back and rethink what you're doing a little bit, just to kind of, is it a sobering thing when things like that happen?
Well, I think it's very much a sobering thing, particularly in the case of Blacksburg, where a couple of hours would have made a tremendous difference for the girls' basketball team, I think. I think the city building official, Jeff Shaver, said it best, is that that quality control and inspection process as the building is being built is absolutely the most important part. And so I guess, and this also goes with LEED buildings, is that the more independent verification and quality control that you can put to a project, it'll pay for itself over and over again over time. I'm sorry about the Blacksburg project. That is truly unfortunate. I bet they find something that it wasn't perhaps the snow. Snow certainly exacerbated it. But we'll see. I'm not a forensic structural engineer.
Right. But it must be sobering in a way when something like that happens, or for a builder.
Indeed.
Let's go back to some of the things that Breakell is doing. One of the things I know that you're doing as a company is driving hybrid cars. Correct? You have some hybrid cars in your fleet, and you also have a plug-in plug-in Prius, which has a special battery pack designed at Virginia Tech. Talk about that a little bit. That's sort of your baby.
Yeah, I drive it, and again, it's sort of an experimental type vehicle. But we have a fleet of 8 Priuses, and so we converted one to a plug-in Prius, such that we can use power from our solar panels and, if you will, sort of charge the car from the sun. And in a larger view, using that car really completes the energy system of the building, the occupants, the loads, and plug-in vehicles. And I think that's where the future is for buildings and transportation. So we're trying to, experiment on ourselves a little bit as to the practicality of these sorts of things.
I think you said you get, what, about 40 miles before the battery has to be recharged? Or?
I get 18. I wish I got 40.
Oh, okay.
Now, the Chevy Volt that's coming out here in a year is supposed to get 40.
What do you think, Stan, it's going to take for getting more businesses and even residents on board when it comes to either retrofitting homes or buildings or houses, more efficient cars, cleaner energy systems, geothermal, which I know you've used? What's going to get people excited about it in the end? Is it going to be showing them a payback time, civic responsibility? What's it going to take in your estimation?
I think there are a lot of many factors, but at the end of the day, I think it comes down to the money. A lot of people will do that last 10% of effort or 20% of effort because it truly is the right thing to do. Some people may want to appear green, if you will, and I think that's okay too. But I think it's incumbent upon the engineering community and contractors and subcontractors to demonstrate what the return on investment really is, and try to take a hard look and predict where future energy costs are going to go, and then CEOs of companies can make informed decisions. And it's not terribly easy, but I think if you look at it fairly, using net present value or internal rate of return or some of these little bit more sophisticated models, you can make a pretty good case for these energy improvements. Some are easy paybacks, like measured in weeks and months. Some are measured in 5 years, 10 years. But a blend of those things is the way to go, in my opinion. Work on the things that you can do right now to start saving money, or right now, and then plan for these other more capital-intensive improvements later. Like
the compact fluorescent light bulbs, the squiggly bulbs that you like to give out.
Yeah, CFLs, exactly. What a great, simple first step for a person to take.
And I would imagine that projects like State and City, the Blacksburg Motor Company, and even the Salem Traffic Management Center are all case studies that you can lay out there to show people that, hey, these things can work, whether it's a new building or a retrofitted building.
Exactly. And each project builds on the previous project as our pool of experience grows, and as subcontractors get more and more comfortable with it. Hopefully you'll see pricing continue to fall, and incentives to do these things, unfortunately, will probably continue to rise in the form of increased energy costs.
Stan Breakell is the chairman of the board for Breakell Incorporated. And Stan, thank you very much for coming on the interview today. Appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
I'm Gene Marrano. This is The Interview. We'll be right back.